The federal government has absolutely no concrete plans to reopen the economy for at least the next 6 months, and we have the sole source contract to prove it. Thanks to the perfect storm of the COVID-19 lockdown, the lack of market access for Canadian oil and gas, thanks to the Liberals, and Justin Trudeau acting as a scarecrow to international investors, Canada's economy experienced the largest contraction in 60 years. Just look at this in the CBC. Statistics Canada reported Friday that the country's gross domestic product shrank by 11.5% in the 3-month period between April and June. That's a 38.7% pace of contraction for the year as a whole. Far and away the steepest and fastest decline on records that date back to 1961. And spending is rising just as fast as the economy is shriveling up like a raisin. The national debt is approaching $1 trillion. The share of that debt for every man, woman, and child in the country is around $23,000 apiece. Alberta, the former economic engine of the country, is in a debt crisis, faced with drastic spending cuts and hopefully government layoffs. The federal government, though, they have the solution for the current economic meltdown and the debt crisis set to cause a credit downgrade and tax hikes on families and job creators. It's one of the Liberals' favorite things to do. Look at this, friends. It's a sole source contract. This one is between the Standards Council of Canada and the CSA Group to create a virtual workshop to tell the government how to reopen the economy at some point. Even weirder, there's no amount on the contract. I guess the CSA just does the work and then the government will pay the amount that the CSA says to pay. Seems legit. Anyway, just look at this. Associated activities will be conducted virtually, and the resulting workshop agreement will be made publicly available at no fee to the public in both official languages. Boy, that's nice. This workshop agreement may serve as a foundational document for future pandemics. So to be clear, this workshop is about creating the dreaded new normal of how we work in a world where we have failed to achieve immortality from China's latest plague unleashed upon the world. Now here, look at this from that same sole source contract document. The following may be considered within the project's scope: guidance for opening buildings and facilities and restarting operations, guidance for organizations on safely returning employees to the workplace and clients to facilities, for example, in retail spaces, guidance for helping to ensure business and operational continuity and organization management of the workplace, guidance for preventative and precautionary measures for those present in the workplace and other facilities, for example, retail space, guidance for closing buildings and facilities and business and operational continuity in the event of another event, considerations for diverse stakeholder groups, for example, the gender-based analysis thing the Liberals have shoehorned into every single aspect of our lives. It's known as the GBA+, and considerations for any unique federal, provincial, and territorial jurisdictional requirements impacting the above. The pandemic was declared in March. Kids were kicked out of school, and hundreds of thousands of people were locked out of their jobs in March. That means we're on month 6 of our 2 weeks to flatten the curve lockdown, and the Liberals are just now considering how to reopen the economy. Oh, and this isn't even the most ridiculous thing in this contract. The timeline might be the worst because it's a predictor of continued lockdowns to come and never-ending government payments to people the government has forced out of work. Look at this. The contract is due 6 months from now, winter 2021. The Liberals have no plans whatsoever to reopen the economy and let us go back to work and live our lives. The lockdown and the economic beatings will continue, I bet, until morale improves and a vaccine is developed and the disease is gone. You see, we have to achieve eternal life and not just disease management these days. The curve is flat. It's been that way for months. But you know what isn't flat? Trudeau's approval ratings, they're tumbling. And Conservatives finally have a leader in place. And an early election just might be around the corner, as Trudeau's allegiance with the NDP to hang on to power in his minority government is poised to fall apart as the WE scandal continues to unravel and claim more and more Liberals. But the best way to ensure future voters is to make sure voters feel like they need the Liberals to keep a roof over their heads and food in their fridges. That's what the lockdown is about now. It's creating an allegiance and loyalty built on fear and economic devastation. It's trauma bonding desperate people to the Liberals. And for that, Trudeau is going to keep this mess going as long as possible, for at least 6 more months. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. If you'd like to help ensure the safety of our journalists as they bring you the other side of the story, please go to journalistdefensefund.com.